There's no reason to regret your life. Everything is on the way. And you've never made a mistake unless you compare your actions to some friggin' other people's values that you've put on a pedestal. Our purpose is the most efficient, effective pathway to fulfill the greatest amount of voids, the greatest amount of value. And our voids are derived from our past judgments. And every experience we have, we've judged. We're the ones that make it into something. We make a heaven or a hell out of it. As Milton said, you see, I don't, in breakthrough experience, when people come to me, and I get every week I teach the breakthrough, I get people coming in there labeling things abusive. I've yet to see abuse on the planet. I know that sounds very odd to you. I've seen events in the planet. Abuse is a broad, vague, general label of something we've seen the downsides to. We didn't see the upside to. We didn't see our reasons for having it in our life. We didn't find the causal relationship. And we go around and we call it abuse because we haven't been accountable enough to take the time to ask the questions, how specifically is this actually helping me in my life, serving me in my life, and helping me be unique and express something amazing? If we ask that question and be accountable to answer the question and quit running our story and dramatizing the illusion by some psychotherapy babble and go in there and ask, how has this helped me? You know, I can compete with anybody on the stuff that's happened in my life. I've been shot at, I've been beaten, I've been attacked, I've had all kinds of things in my life. Every one of those things have helped me be who I am today, and I'm grateful for it. There's nothing your body can experience unless you want to play victim in your life, which is a disempowerment. And by the way, no one's going to continue to do that unless they perceive more advantage and disadvantage out of doing it. They're either getting sympathy out of it, they're getting points out of it, they're having to avoid accountabilities. There's some internal benefit out of why they're playing those games. And in breakthrough, I don't let them get away with it. I hold them accountable and I have them go and find the blessings. And I've seen thousands of people who thought they were abused and turned what they experienced into opportunity and thanks, and gone back and actually freed themselves of that drama that they've self-imposed because they chose to see only the downside of that event. The same thing if somebody sees only the upside and they think it's terrific, they can get caught in a fantasy. I'm not here for fantasy promotion or nightmare avoidance. I'm here to help you realize that none of those are what matter. It's your perception, decisions, and actions about them. So I don't allow in my Demartini method, that's not even allowed, that terminology of abuse, because what that does is programs the brain that it's a causal effect outside you instead of your own cause. No therapy is ever going to be complete until cause and equals effect in space-time, until you realize you're accountable in your own reality. Now, some people say, well, that's not the case. Remember what Epictetus said. At first, on the journey of self-development, you start out blaming other people, and you're disempowered. Then you go around and blame yourself, which is another delusion. And then you realize, you look again and you balance out the equation, you realize there's nothing to blame. Everything was on the way. And that's not optimism, that's not positive thinking, unless you're down and negative. Because if you're up in the fantasy and you got an infatuation, you need negative thinking to get you back into the balance. I'm interested in objective thinking and seeing things on the way. And that means if you're infatuated, you get to see the downsides to extract meaning out of it. If you're on the resentment side, you extract the upsides to get the meaning out of it. So I'm a firm believer in asking the quality questions to make you fully conscious instead of going around living in conscious and unconscious states. Because if you're labeling something abusive, you're unconscious of the benefits. And you're choosing to hold on and run the story about how it's done this to you and it did this to you, and you're blaming. And then you'll be looking for some outside solution to yourself, some savior out there to rescue you. That's the height of the animal mind, not the height of the human angelic state. So no, it's not that what's out there that does things. You're not abused. You've got an experience. And by the way, whatever you're attracting in your life, you're addicted to its opposite. That's why you're labeling it something abusive anyway. You're not going to comprehend that until you come to breakthrough, probably. But if you come to breakthrough, I can prove that to you and show that to you. I've done it. And I've had skeptics of all different sorts, and psychiatrists and psychologists at first not comprehend that. But when they see it live, they go, by God, he's on to something here. We have amazing resilience and adaptability. We can use whatever happens in our life, no matter what it is. And sometimes the people who've been most down and out with the most outrageous stuff are the people that go the most powerful achievements in life. I was told I would never read, write, or communicate, never amount to thing, never go very far in life when I was a child. I am grateful for that today. The purpose is right there in their life. If you look very carefully, your life demonstrates it. Every single day, you spontaneously do actions, and whatever those things that you spontaneously do that you don't need to be reminded to do, you don't need any extrinsic motivation to do, that's the pathway. People sometimes compare themselves to others. They beat themselves up. I'm going to share a story. This is a classical story. I'm having a lady in London who came to the breakthrough experience 7 years ago, maybe. And she said, Dr. Demartini, I just don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my mission is. I just don't know. I'm lost. I said, stop. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop giving your power away with statements that are ridiculous. And she just was shocked by that. I said, what do you do every single day that nobody has to remind you to do, that you spontaneously do, that you love to do? I don't have anything like that. I said, stop and answer my question. I didn't ask if you didn't. I asked you to answer my question. Be accountable. You're not going to master your life running stories and coming up with excuses and dodging accountable actions. So let's ask that question again. What do you do every single day that you're inspired by, that you spontaneously do, that nobody has to remind you to do, that you love doing? And she finally looked. Instead of running the story that she didn't, okay, well, I spend my day with my children. I said, do you love that? She says, I definitely do. Do you do it spontaneously every day? You don't have to be reminded to do it. Does anybody have to call you and say, go spend time with your children? No. Are you inspired to do it? Yes. I'm inspired watching them grow. And she got a little welled up inside. I said, you love doing that, don't you? She goes, yes. Your highest value reveals that. But what's happening is you're comparing yourself to somebody else. And you're comparing yourself to some other woman. And she's kind of looking. And I said, you're thinking that that's not enough. She goes, you're right. I should be having a job, a career path. I should be doing something more socially impactful. I said, did you hear the shoulds? Anytime you hear shoulds, ought to, supposed tos, got tos, have tos, must, need tos from the outside world, those are injected values by outer authorities, traditions and conventions that extrinsically sourced that you are comparing your life to, that you think you should be doing. And that's clouding the clarity of what your calling is, that you know what your life spontaneously does. I said, the lady there that's dedicated to business that you're comparing yourself to, that has children, she's probably delegating things and hiring people to do it, and she's focused on her business. She said, well, she does. And the other lady's probably doing the same thing, but she's focused on her social life. She, well, she does. I said, but I can't seem to get a business off the ground. And no matter what I do, I just keep going back and spending time with my children because they always have something I need to do. I said, that's because you have a high value there. Your mission is that. Rose Kennedy from the Kennedy family, her mission was, I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders. And she first said, she said, well, is that good enough to be dedicated to a family? I said, there are 7 areas of life: spiritual, mental, career, financial, family, social, physical. All of them are equally valuable in the planet. And if yours right now, at this stage of your life, is called to deal and dedicate to a family, then by God, that's your path. That's your mission. Quit trying to compare yourself to others. Compare your daily actions to your own mission. I said, you are a mother. You're dedicated to your children. Honor that and quit being a cat expecting to swim like a fish. And she cried right there on the spot. And she ran up to me and gave me a hug. And she looked up at me and she said, that's all I've ever really, really, really wanted to do. I said, well, then honor it and quit trying to be somebody you're not. It's torture. She got it. I said, now go write that down and write down the dream you honestly have that your life is demonstrating. Your life demonstrates your purpose in life. What we do is we get so clouded by comparing ourselves to other people and futilely trying to get other people to live in our values or trying to get us to live in somebody else's values. And we disempower ourselves by doing that. And then we create more voids that confuse us. Instead of look at what's real. Look at what you fill your space with every day. Look at what you spend your time on every day. Look at what energizes you every day. Look at what you spend your money on. Look at what you're organized in, where you're most disciplined spontaneously. What is it you think about, visualize, affirm every day about how you want your life that shows evidence of coming true? Look at what you want to converse with other people about, talk about most. Look at what inspires you and brings tears to your eyes. Look at what it is that you actually have as a goal that's coming true. And look at what you can't wait to get up and learn. And that will tell you what your mission is. Because a mission is not something extrinsically motivated. A mission is calling from within. In the breakthrough experience, I'm interested in helping people get that. Because you do not require motivation anymore. I don't need motivation in my life to do what I'm doing. I've been doing it 47, going on 48 years, and I love it. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't prioritize your life, delegate lower priority things, and get inspired where you can't wait to get up in the morning and do what you're here to do. And a mission is there. It's inside every one of us. And people come up every week in the breakthrough experience trying to pretend they don't know what it is. And they cloud it. And I guarantee you, I am certain, I've been doing this so long, for 42 years I've been working with values and mission statements. I am certain that that is because of comparisons. And as long as you put people on pedestals or pits, you'll be unclouded. You'll be clouded and unclear about your mission. But your mission is sitting there yearning to express itself spontaneously, waiting for you to get your facades and personas out of the way, the real essential being that you are. And the magnificence of that is far greater than any fantasy you'll ever impose on yourself. You got to give yourself permission to shine there, because that's the enlighten you, and not shroud and shrink and gravitate into conformity, trying to please other people, not by service, but by subordination. And live by duty, you'll shrink. If you live by design with foresight in your highest values, you'll be a leader. And you'll be inspired by your life. And you won't have Bonnie Ware's 5 major regrets at the end of your life, which most people do. There's no reason to regret your life. Everything is on the way. And you've never made a mistake unless you compare your actions to some friggin' other people's values that you've put on a pedestal. And no other people are making mistakes either unless you project your values onto them. They're living according to their values, but we aren't honoring them. Honor the people's values and let them live their values, and honor your own and watch the difference in your life. It makes a huge difference. And Breakthrough, I'm training people how to do that. It's freedom. It's a freedom to be loved for who you are. How are you going to love you for who you are if you're exaggerating yourself with pride, minimizing yourself in shame, putting people on pedestals and minimizing yourself, putting people in pits and exaggerating yourself, and you're never allowing to be yourself? The real you is the center of those two. It's not proud. It's not shamed. It's filled with love and filled with inspiration. And it's filled with enthusiasm, the divine within, if you will. Entheos, which is equanimity, which is objectivity, which is something that is certain and not volatile, and something that's present, that's not past and future oriented. And so I'm a firm believer that you have that capacity to do that. Your perceptions are filtered by your values. You have a pulvinar nuclei in the thalamus that is a gating and filtering area that selects with confirmation bias and disconfirmation bias, with false positives and false negatives. We select our information so we can extract out a finite bit of information out of an infinite possible data that's in the universe. The universe is potentially infinite, but we only get a small reality of it. All of our senses are very small smidgens of what's there. Our sight only sees the electromagnetic spectrum between 400 and 700 nanometers, and the higher frequency, smaller wavelength, 400 and beyond, the ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma, we don't see. And the infrared, microwave, and long-wave radio, we don't see beyond the 700 nanometer. And so we live in a very small, finite world. Our hearing is 30 to 30,000 cycles per second. Our tactile is limited by the grooves of our fingers. And we, and the sensory receptors, we live in a very finite world. And we, in addition to that, our mind filters out things further. So we live in a very, very finite world. And we have the capacity to take whatever received through our senses, receptors give us. And with past experience stored in our subconscious mind, we can take that with new associations from various regions of the brain and other experiences, and we can take that and we can make a mountain out of it or a molehill. We can turn it into heaven or hell. We can take any stimulus and turn it into anything we want. I've bet people that I could have them take something they thought was terrible and I could make them grateful for it. And I've had people that have actually thought they had something they were infatuated with, and I can show them that I can make them where they actually are disgusted by it. And I've proven and I've won every time, because I know how to ask the question to reveal the unconscious and to balance out those perceptions or polarize those perceptions. And believe it or not, you have the capacity to do that. So you can take a perception and stack new associations with it and make a heaven and a hell out of anything. So you have that capacity. So blaming things on the outside is a disempowerment. Giving credit for something outside is a disempowerment. It's a denial of what you see out there inside you and denying of your capacity to realize you have the ability to take whatever that is and turn it into whatever you want. That's the power of your mind, power of your perceptual system. And that's the beauty of your executive function, because it has the capacity to neutralize anything that comes your way. So changing your perception is asking questions. The quality of your life is basically the quality of the questions you ask. If you ask questions that make you the unconscious conscious. So if something happens and you think this terrible event's occurring, a day, a week, a month, a year, or 5 years later, you find out that it was terrific. But why wait for the years to go by before you see the terrific? Why not look right now and discover it? It doesn't take time and space with the aging process to have wisdom. All you got to do is ask the right question and become aware of it now. Every week in the breakthrough experience, I show people how to do that. And they've taken so-called abuses and so-called bad things, which are their labels. They're just labels because they've been unwilling to look at the other side. And I show them how to see the other side, and they turn it around, and all of a sudden that load that they've been carrying, that weight they've been carrying is gone. And they realize they had nothing to do with that event out there. And they've been blaming that event for years and running that story to their friggin' psychotherapist, which is it's insane that is even still allowed in psychology, running dramatic stories and thinking that's somehow going to make you empowered. All that's going to do is keep your amygdala running, myelinate the lower areas of the brain, damage and weaken the forebrain, and make you a victim so they can keep you on their little cycle all your life. That's insanity. No, you take command of your perceptions and find out exactly how whatever's happened, how is it helping you get what's most important? That's a powerful question. And answer it. And don't sit there, I don't know, I can't find it, and act like a little kid. Be mature enough to find the answer, solve that problem. You can practice. Benson's law is a law that says if you practice something consistently, you'll master it. If you practice your perceptions in a balanced way and master it, nothing outside you affects your life. If you master prioritization, you're no longer in depreciating yourself. The same thing on decisions. The decisions that you make, if you let the amygdala making those decisions, you're going to be impulsive and reactive, and you're going to be instinctual all the time. And you're going to let the world on the outside run you because you have a biased perception. But if you get objective and live by your highest values, you will govern your decisions with wisdom, prudence, and inspiration. And you will spontaneously act, not out of a decision, but out of a calling. And most people don't even know what the transcendental awakening is for people. In the breakthrough experience, I teach people how to access that, so they're not sitting there running decisions from the outside. They're called from within. And it's hard to comprehend that if you've never experienced it, but it's powerful. And the same thing, there's nobody telling you that you have to do something. And if they do, it's because you're chosen to not tell yourself. If you don't empower yourself intellectually, you'll be told what to do. If you don't empower yourself in business, you'll be told what to do there. If you don't empower yourself intellectually, you'll be told what to think. If you don't empower yourself in finances, you'll be told what you're worth. If you don't empower yourself in family, you'll be doing jobs around the house that you could be delegating. If you don't empower yourself in social, you'll be told propaganda and misinformation we see all over the politics. If we don't empower ourselves in our health, we'll be told what drugs to take and organs to remove. If we don't empower ourselves spirits, we'll be told some outdated, antiquated dogma that is basically there to control you so you can be a sheep instead of a shepherd. man, you have the capacity to be empowered in all 7 areas of life. That's what I'm interested in doing in Breakthrough. Give you the power back. Quit giving your power away. So you have the capacity to change your priorities. On a daily basis, you can fill your day with high priority actions, say no to things that aren't. There's nothing out there stopping you. There's no duty that you have to go by unless you are subordinating some tradition, convention, mother and father. Bowen, the psychologist, showed that most people are trapped in their little family dynamic. They're afraid of upsetting their mommy or daddy, and they're playing like a child all their life instead of transcending their avoidance of pain and seeking of pleasure and their subordination to individual authorities and subordination to collective authorities. Very few people walk the path of transcendence, but we all have that capacity to do it. And our executive function is giving us permission to do it as we empower our life. But we're not going to do it sitting there subordinating to the outside world. You want to make a difference? You're not going to do it by fitting in. You're going to do it by standing out. And standing out means walking your own path, being your own trailblazer, your own unborrowed visionary. And that's only going to occur if you live by highest priority. And that's going to occur when you follow Benson's law of practice every day, living by priority and practicing every day, asking how specifically is whatever's happening, how is it getting me my dream? If you can practice and master that, what's going to be in your way? Nothing. You take everything and you spin it in a way where you win. And that to me is the only way to go through life, is to turn things into opportunities. Challenges are opportunities. Stressings into blessings, scars into stars. You know, we can sit there and pity party, trauma drama, ho-hum, doldrum, and have digital craniorectalitis syndrome, or we can get off our ass and go do something amazing. And that even that ass is an awakened spiritual service if we turn it into opportunity. And so I'm a firm believer that we have the capacity to do that. And I try my best to teach people those principles and tools on how to do that, because there's a science to it. It's not rocket science. It's not something you can't do. I've seen 6-year-olds learn how to do it, and 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. In fact, sometimes that the older people that have been programmed for so many years and got caught in the dogma and tradition, that the ones that have the most difficult because they've got hidden agendas to be proud of their opinions, which trap them. And they're sitting there worrying about what people think instead of getting on with doing something amazing and going through the phases of first being challenged and ridiculed and violently opposed until they become self-evident as a transformer of the planet. So anyway, you have the capacity to change your perception, decisions, and actions. I'm certain about it. Illness is a result of, according to going back all the way back into Hippocrates and before, if you go way back into the earliest stages of Greek philosophy, you'll see that illness was considered an imbalance of the humors. Well, today we have imbalanced chemistry or imbalanced physiology, and we call that illness. But illness is a feedback mechanism to guide us to authenticity. I'm a real believer that we need to ask questions instead of seeing illness as something caused by the outside and looking for a solution on the outside. We go around and we're in a classical period right now. Look at it out there. We got people fearful of the corona, and they think, well, the coronavirus is the cause, and this vaccine is going to be the solution. That's pretty crazy when you stop and think about it. If 1% of the population is being affected by corona, 99% of the people are not being affected by it that bad. They're getting some sick, and they get over it, and they get around their business. So what that tells you is that your immune system and your physiology is more of a factor. The host is more of the factor than the friggin' bug out there. And I'm not saying that it's not a virile little virus, but the reality is the viruses are doing their job. And they're basically designed to do that. If we can balance out our perceptions, we can balance out our physiology. Our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are epigenetically altering not only our immune function, but our physiology, and creating symptoms to give us feedback, to let us know that we're not authentic and not seeing objectively, because we're not in our highest values. We're not living by our mission, which is where we have the greatest resilience, adaptability, and power to bring wellness. Wellness means wholeness. It means well-being. It doesn't. Illness is when you are separate from the universe or world around you, and wellness is when it's we. The universe and I are one. And I'm a firm believer that if we balance out our physiology, that's why in the breakthrough experience, over the years, thousands of people have had health recoveries or transformations in the program. Thousands. I mean, I've had doctors. One doctor sent 400 patients to the breakthrough experience. Another has sent 360 or 75 a psychiatric patient to the breakthrough experience to try to get a result. And you know what? We've transformed these people's lives, many of them. And I'm a firm believer that your physiology is trying to give you feedback. If you pig out and you wake up with a gut that's feeling yucky, you got gas and bloat and diarrhea and nasal congestion and a headache, and you feel nauseous, well, you pigged out. And all those symptoms aren't enemies. You don't go take a pill to get rid of those symptoms. You use those symptoms as a feedback to wake you up about your pigging out. And it shows you that you're not governed. And if you go back to priority, live by priority, get inspired, fill your day with something meaningful, you're not likely to pig out. And when you do, your symptoms don't show up. Your symptoms are your friends, not your enemies, but they've been misinterpreted by a pharmaceutical-run whole model, and you're looking for a magic pill instead of actually being accountable and the power within. That's the key. I'm 66 years now. Let's say I'm 66 years almost, 47 plus years, almost 48 years without any drug. Not an aspirin, not an antibiotics, nothing. There's no reason why that's an essential component of your existence. That's a symptom of not living by priority. And I'm a firm believer that you have the capacity to do something more with your life than to succumb to those disempowered belief systems. I'm not saying that there's not a place for healthcare. There is. Emergency cases, absolutely. But not for daily life. We're here to master our life. I'm here to help you with that. That's why I teach the breakthrough experience, and all 76 of my programs are designed for that. Because I want people to be able to give their power back. Instead of blaming things on the outside, claim your power. There's absolutely no reason why you can't do something with your physiology. Learn about physiology, study it. John Demartini did studies on biofeedback and physiology. We have the capacity to do extraordinary things with our physiology. That Winhoff guy is going out there and doing amazing things with it. We need to listen to people like that are willing to go out there and do something amazing with their physiology. Show us what we have the capacity to do. That's where you want to put your energy into mastery of life. That's why I teach the breakthrough experience. That's why I do these programs, because I want to disseminate information. That's been my mission since I was 17. Disseminate information that I learned from my research that can lead to an inspired, magnificent life. We're here to have a awakened potential and awakened service on the planet. So yeah, I'm starting to warm up, I think. Well, if you live by your highest values, your self-worth goes down. If you live by lower values, your self-worth goes down. If you live by your highest values, you're more objective. And people that are more objective manage money more wisely. They think in advance of the repercussions of immediate gratification and consumerism that buying depreciables does to economics. You are not going to be financially independent. I set out to be financially independent at age 28. I did it. I accomplished it. I got more passive income now than I do even actively earning. And I'm absolutely certain that that's doable. And the only reason is because I made a decision at age 27, 28, that I was going to buy assets and I was going to put money into something that gave me a return and put money back in my pocket. So I didn't have to be a slave to money, and I could be its master. And so as long as you buy things that go down in value, that are consumables, that's the amygdala. See, the consumables is you eating prey, you consuming, and that's the amygdala. And the amygdala is an impulse system, and it's trying to avoid the challenge, it's trying to avoid criticism, and so it wants to buy things to look good in front of other people that you're conforming to, that you don't really give a shit about, and they don't give a care about you. And that's spiritual, harmonizing, intelligent truth, that word. And so what's interesting is when you're in your executive center and you're living by priority and you're objective, now you're going to think things through and stop and reflect before you act. You're not going to be impulsive and instinctual. See, most people go out and they get a credit card, which is the stupidest thing you'll ever do, and get a credit card and go buy something. And then you have the pleasure of the purchase, you think, right? Because it's anabolic, consumer, prey, food. And then over here, weeks later, they have the pain, predator, bills. And you separate those inseparables. They're actually simultaneously going on, but you didn't pay at the moment you did it, because that would make you a little bit more disciplined. You waited. You had a delayed gratification. You got the immediate gratification, you got a delayed pain, and so you don't associate the two. And what you do is you allow this with interest to compound to make pain out of your pleasure. Now, what's wise is to actually buy assets and let immediate gratification toss. and go into long-term vision where it pays. And then allow yourself to not raise your lifestyle until you raise your savings and your taxes equally amounts, and earn the right to a magnificent lifestyle that will always climb faster than inflation over time. And this only occurs if you value truly wealth building. And if you don't value it, it's not going to happen. And it's common sense, but most people don't do it. They're interested in worrying about fitting in, buying something they don't need, filling up a closet. Stop and think about it. If you take all your closet space, you take your garage, and you take all the space that's filled up with stuff that depreciates, you'll find out that most of your life is a depreciating life. It's shocking to face this. 24 or 25% of your house is a car garage that fills up with junk, that gets stuck, that you store there, and you're paying a quarter of your mortgage on. It's shocking to face this. And then you buy a car that's a depreciating thing. You buy 4 or 5 cars. And all this is depreciating systems. In the future, that's going to be gone. You're going to end up with an automatic Uber system coming and picking you up. You'll own stock in it and get paid to travel. That's way more efficient. But people who don't value themselves and don't value what wealth means well-being. And if you don't master money, you're not going to have well-being. You're going to be living in stress all the time. And it's the master of that. And so by living by your highest values and mastering your mind and mastering governance by those priorities, you'll start to buy assets and let money work for you. You'll be a slave to money if you buy liabilities and depreciable consumables, and you'll be a master if you buy assets. And after a while, the patience of long-term vision by living by your highest priorities pays off, and all of a sudden, your lifestyle can go up every single year because your assets are growing faster than inflation and faster than what you're consuming. And in the process of doing that, you've now mastered life. You'd be surprised how many even celebrities that make millions of dollars are bankrupt today because they didn't learn that lesson. It doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how you manage what you make, and your hierarchy of values dictate that. And it doesn't matter, how much money you've made in your entire life. It's what you've actually kept as a net worth. And that tells you your own self-image. So if you're not valuing yourself, don't expect the world to. And if you're not investing in yourself, don't expect the world to. And one of the greatest investments, I'm certain, is education. That's the big leveling, playing field leveler. That's the thing that allows you to have the greatest advantage. And the people who do it the least need it the most, and the people who do it the most need it the least. So that's why I'm specializing in education, because it's allowed me to empower all 7 areas of my life and help me help other people do the same. That's why I teach the breakthrough experience, because it's a mind-blowing educational experience to help people empower those areas. So yes, money and mastery of mind are inseparable, because it's people who can't master their emotions will never manage money. It's exactly what Buffett's trying to tell people.